What's going on, everybody? Mike McIntyre here from All Things Sports, bringing you a brand new video of the new Predator Edge. Well, it kind of looks like this. Let's get into the brand new review. Alright guys, Mike McIntyre here from All Things Sports, back with a brand new video. Thank you guys for stopping by as always. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell notification because we don't want you guys to miss out on any brand new content. Let's get into this brand new review now that that stuff's taken out of the way. Alright guys, so here we go. The brand new Predator Edge Plus. This is the laceless version of the new Predator Edge. I'm super happy that I got my hands on these. I had to wait a little bit since the announcement to get them on Adidas' website so that I could pick them up and do a review. So here we go. Because it's the Plus model, we get the fancy box slide out and some accessories. So we have the boots themselves, the laceless versions. As you can see, we have a string bag. Let me just get everything out of the box. We have a string bag. Here we go. This is nice mesh string bag with the Predator graphic on it, Adidas logo, all in blue and orange. No seam down the middle in case you were wondering. And the last extra that you get is a large shoehorn, which is a really nice touch, honestly. I'm a fan of this. So here we go, guys. Here is the Predator Edge Plus. This is the laceless version of the brand new Predator Edge. I've already done my review on the Point 1, and I'm a massive fan of the Point 1. They've done a really good job addressing some of the things that I didn't like with last year's Predator Freak. And it's nice to see that they've thrown it back a little bit to the LZ from 2012. I was a big fan of this boot. I think it was a very good Predator, arguably one of the best. And we kind of see that little nod to the LZ with this brand new Predator Edge. The first thing we'll talk about is the colorway. Obviously, it reminds me of the old Predator LZ. Blue, orange, it does look really good. One of the differences between this one and the Point 1 is you get this chrome kind of shiny finish on the sole plate, whereas on the Point 1, it's sort of a matte finish. I know in this light, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's just a little bit more detail there. That might be a good shot. Now, obviously, this one being laceless, they're going to have to find a way to support the upper without using laces, so we'll talk about that in a second. You do get all of these rubber elements back on, which they're calling zone skin. Now, I think the lethal zones were a better name, but you can't go back to that, I guess, in terms of marketing purposes or whatever, but they do have all these elements on it. They're very aggressive. They're quite grippy. And because they are in these horizontal lines now, I'd argue that there is even more grip available because of the aggressiveness of these elements compared to last year's Predator Freak. We do have an internal heel counter. We do have that split sole plate design, which they are now calling the facet frame. I'm not the biggest fan of the stud pattern this time around. I know it's very similar to what we've had in the last couple years, but there's just something about these studs. The shape of them means they're a little bit too aggressive in my opinion, and they're gonna lack that forgiveness when trying to pivot in any kind of tough ground or surface. So I just wish they were a little bit more forgiving, even if the studs were a little bit more of an equilateral triangle and just placed evenly throughout the sole plate without having any kind of funny orientations or twists on them. I think the studs are going to do that much better of a job being forgiveness and allowing you to pivot. So I'm not the biggest fan of the stud pattern. And now we need to talk about the upper. So if you look online, the tech specs say that they're basically the same thing as the Point 1, but there is a very noticeable difference even in hand with the upper stiffness. Now, this Predator compared to last year's has a much more defined shape to it. You can see it, the boot just holds its shape that much better, and it's part of its design feature, I think, in some ways, that the boot looks this certain way. So you can see that it's holding its shape. Now, the other thing that's different is these elements are taking up so much of the upper that they are going to help in the boot keeping its shape. So because of that, you get a certain amount of stiffness. So the nature of the Predator this time around is one that will hold its shape, has very aggressive elements, and that alone is gonna make the upper a little bit stiffer. We saw the same thing on the Point 1. The difference is, this time there are no laces. So Adidas now has to add even more reinforcement to the boot so that it can function properly without laces. So you need a certain amount of lockdown, so they're building in certain elements into the upper so that it can give you the support and that sort of responsiveness that you need. Because of that, this boot is extremely stiff from right out of the box. Now, some people, I've seen them say that it's not a high-end boot anymore because of how stiff the upper is. I would disagree in that statement, but I do think that this boot has lost something now because of how stiff this upper is. Last year's Predator Freak was not nearly as stiff as this, the laceless version I'm talking about, and it just fit with a little bit more forgiveness to it. This one, you flex your foot and it's going to crease in certain ways because all through this lateral side, they have to build in that stability. Again, this is not something I experienced on the 0.1, so I'm a little bit disappointed with the upper of the Plus model this time around, but I do understand why it's there. It's just unfortunate because it's kind of ruined the experience of the boot to a certain extent. So that's pretty much it for the review portion. Let's head on over to the turf to talk about fit and feel. So slipping the boot on feet for the first time, again, the first thing that I notice is how much stiffer this upper is compared to the 0.1. I'm thankful that it's wider than last year's Predator, which for wide feet is a fantastic thing. Wide feet do not shy away from the Predators now because they have gone back to a wider platform. Unfortunately, with this laceless design, because of all those elements on the upper, because of the natural shape of the Predator Edge, and because this one is a laceless boot, all three of those things add up to a very stiff upper. So when I flex my foot, it really does crease quite harshly and you can feel these pressure points on top of your foot. I think this boot is just always going to have a little bit more of a rigidity to it compared to the 0.1 because it is laceless. Other than the upper, they've done a fantastic job with the collar. They've cut down that excessive piece of material at the back. It's no longer needed. It was never needed. I said that in my first video. They still kept this kind of two-piece design, so around your ankle it fits really, really well. And then they've cut out this kind of V shape on the front, which again really makes that collar feel natural. I said it in the 0.1 video. I think this is one of the most natural fitting collars that has ever been released on a football boot since collars have been introduced. So huge fan of the collar. The stud pattern is good. I think it's going to offer plenty of traction. I'm just not a fan of the shape of the studs because I think they can be more forgiving than they are. In terms of fit, go true to size. Adidas is always bang on with their sizing. The real drawback with this Plus model this time around is just that harshness of the upper, and I think it's going to be a deal breaker for some people because it really is quite harsh from right out of the box. So that's pretty much it. Let's send it back to the desk and we'll wrap this video up. So guys, there you have it. There's my review of the Predator Edge 0.1. Again, they do look really, really good, kind of throwing it back to that LZ from 2012. The unfortunate thing with the Predator Edge, with the Plus, it really is stiff. It's just too stiff from right out of the box, and I don't think it's going to soften up enough to make the boot super, super comfortable. I think the nature of this Edge this time around is just going to be a stiff upper. That's my review of the Predator Edge Plus. Make sure you guys leave a like if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification because I am going to be doing a comparison video between this one and the 0.1 so you guys can go check that out. Other than that, Mike McIntyre, All Things Sports, signing off now. Catch you guys in the next one. Till then, take care. Peace.